We start out with the second panel, career and labor market, and I'm delighted to introduce the next speaker, ANASTASIA TORMAKHOVA, PhD in philosophy and is an associate professor at the Department of Aesthetic and Cultural Studies at Taras Shevchenko National University of Kyiv, Ukraine, who will be presenting on the topic gender aspect in IT, the Ukrainian dimension. Oh my God, this makes me crazy. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Something goes wrong with our presentation.
Yes, no. But no one see that.
This is what? This is
Okay.
forward. This is back.
Yeah, everything's
But we don't have the. You need to share this because of the time.
How to do it?
Okay, let me help. So, just a second.
Share.
And then choose this one. Okay, share. Yeah, everything is okay.
Okay, thank you.
Just 1 second. No.
Maybe I can do in computer.
And how to switch the slides?
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Dear colleagues, I'm very happy to be these days in Vilnius because it's very important to me and for my colleagues from Ukraine to feel myself alive and ready to speak without any weapons and rockets that fly under our heads. And I want to talk about gender aspects in IT in Ukraine, and my speech will consist of 2 parts. The first part is about digital sphere in Ukraine. In Ukraine, we have Project DIA. It started in 2019 in September when the Ministry of Digital Transformation was appeared in Ukraine. Minister of this Ministry of Digital Transformation was very young man, Mikhail Fedorov. He wanted to change fields that was full of bureaucratic in Ukraine. And the project DIA was so good that in this year, in 2023, Estonia have their own project, REAG, that's based on DIA platform. This project named Digital State, українською це держава в смартфоні. It means that all benches, electronic governments, cybersecurity, electronic democracy, business, and healthcare, and education, and transport system, and smart cities will be more interesting, more simple for all users. And how it was realized in Ukraine. Application DIA, mobile application, had modern, most important documents, passport of Ukraine, and and other documents. I don't want to put it on the slide, but you can see that it's very simple to have your documents in your phone. And Ukraine became the first country in the world where a digital passport had the same validity as a paper or plastic counterpart. In DIA, Ukrainians use 5 million ID cards, 12 million foreign passports, and 7 million driver license in the application. Ukraine is the first in Europe country which have a digital driver's license. Drivers can pay fines in a few clicks or share a car to relatives or to friends. So that is why technical passport appears in India too. And among the most popular services for users is the registration of companies in India portal. This is the fastest business registration in the world. In 2 minutes with a digital passport and a signature in India, you can become an owner of your own business without leaving your home. This is application Kyiv Digital, Kyiv Цифровий. It have name Место в кишені, your city in the pocket. It have many abilities from the left to the right. The first one is shown alarm attack in Ukraine. I can show you. It's time when it starts and it's time when it finishes. This is your ticket that you can buy for your trip in a bus, in train, or in a metro. It's not interesting, it's bureaucratic ability to come to some offices in the time when you want. And this one is about ability to change the names of some streets or squares or maybe districts in a town, and you can avoid like on the click on this one. And this is map of our shelters here. Thank you. It's made of shelters in Kyiv, and you can see there are many shelters, but now not it's not translated because you can see there are many shelters, but in some of them maybe 2 or 5 people can. And it's very bad for us. The next one project was School, Єдина школа. Its ability to parents and for children and for teachers to communicate. You can see in the mark, Ukrainian language, Ukrainian literature, English, science, English. It's that people can learn on June 2022. The time of these lessons, the mark of that what we have to do. And that is marks of people that they education and their parents too. The next one, it was project All Ukrainian School Online. It's began in 2020 when the COVID begins a pandemic, and all Ministry of Transformation, Ministry of Education wanted to create something which helped people to receive their lessons, some tests for who learn in 5th, 11th classes. And this one is example of video. I think it's не покажет, короче. This one is application for health. You can find clinics, medicine, or doctors in your home. You can find a doctor and a time when you can. And this one is vaccination. COVID-19, that you can no, sign out, yes, on this vaccination. And the second part is about women in IT in Ukraine, and the purple color is woman. And the is about men in Ukraine. How you can see, it's a percent of women who works in IT since 2011 to 2020. It grows, more women start to work in IT since these 10 years. This graphic show the works, type of work in field of IT that this woman can do. The most women work in non-technical places, non-technical field. On the second, it's business analytic, next designer, project manager, QA, top manager, CA, and sysadmin is a type of work that is consists of mostly in men field. The next, it's a dynamic of women's work in various positions, non-technical position, and you can see that this show us these differences, which was in 5 years and 5 years. Next one is not interesting. And it was the graphic that shows why you're looking for a new job. The most want to change work because they don't want to do what they do. The second, that they want good, more abilities in work. They next one, they lost the job. Therefore, they want more pay for their work, and on the 5, they had changed the place of their living. This one, it's not interesting. It's type of company. The first one, it's production, some vegetables, maybe fruits, maybe something like wine and another, and it's the first position. Next one is outsourcing, freelance, it's on the lower table. Did you find a job after 24 February 2022? Yes, the 62% of IT specialists find the work in Ukrainian companies. And you can see 12% find the job abroad, and 8% find a job in Ukraine and abroad, and 7% don't find a job in this time. And it's a salary satisfaction. It's very interesting. In this graphic, you can see the woman is high and the man is low. And in this graphic, we can see how they long work in this IT sphere. 1, 2, 3 years, or 3, 5 years, or more than 5 years. And we can see that women without work in IT, they have more salary satisfaction than in who works more than 5 years. And this is percent of salary in IT in Ukraine in dollar. The woman is purple, yes, and man is green. How you can see in men have more salary in IT, and it's very bad for this time, because we understand that these gender stereotypes, they work in Ukraine, and we have to feel to change it. This difference in salary level that demonstrate the type of work. Senior software engineer, a junior software engineer, project manager, designer, marketing, sales manager, and support. These slides show us a company, EPAM, this American company that work in Ukraine, and it's work with testing products, digital product, and EPAM have many projects for students, trainings which want to work in IT. It's EPAM teachers internship, IT fundamental self-pacing online, Java, and another. And we can see many message in different nets, not nets, in Telegram, in Viber, in Messenger. This one was from Telegram, when you can see the ability to take part in IT sphere if you're not working in the yearly, yeah, thank you. It's web designer, it's project testing and analyst, and you can see a phone's number and another. How you can see, we have many problems in Ukraine, NIT problems and gender aspects. It's one of them. It's not our greatest problem. Compared to other areas of professional activity, where almost half of Ukrainians lost their job, especially in the first months of the war, job losses in the IT amount to only 6%. And Ministry of Digital Transformation of Ukraine, in the direction of simplifying documents flow, providing services and references, created opportunities for paying for various services, create many abilities for women too, because this transformation, which started in 2019, create many abilities, many they simplified our life, and it's very simple to do what you want, to go to doctor, to see what became in the world and Ukraine too, and it's interesting for analyzing. And thank you.
One.
How is this digital information? It's very difficult to have statistics about Ukraine and society, you also mentioned, and how you can explain this digital representation, this digital interpretation for their hurdle on the whole situation. Can you take it interpretation or some influence, some captions in it's important because we understand that in Europe it's another situation. We maybe Я відповілю, давайте по-русски лучше отвечу, да, вот мне просто очень хочется, чтобы мне точно все поняли. То есть после того, как много украинцев выехали за границу, мы поняли, что наши ожидания от Европы, они были немножечко где-то превышены, потому что много сервисов, которые возникли в Украине на протяжении 5 лет, они совершенно отличаются от того, как это есть в Европе. То есть для нас абсолютно нормально зайти в телефон, найти на сегодня свободное время к врачу, записать туда ребенка и быстренько, схватив его, побежать в поликлинику. Для нас абсолютно нормально записаться на вакцинацию, если там окно есть буквально на сегодня, ну просто нужно проехать в другой район. Точно так же, то есть в смартфоне мы сейчас видим просто все. То есть у нас кроме ДИ, где действительно, когда раньше вас просили, например, показать там какой-нибудь инфекционный код, паспорт и так далее, нам вот раньше было проблемно, да, то есть сейчас у нас в связи с войной даже сделали такой Е-документ, который содержит основную информацию про, собственно говоря, гражданина Украины, да, то есть карта платників податків, в самой ДИ есть информация о вакцинации, в ней есть вот загранпаспорт, посвідчення водія у меня, свидетельство про регистрацию транспортного засоба, свидетельство про рождение ребенка. То есть если у тебя, ну не дай бог с тобой что-то случилось, но остался твой телефон, по нему можно узнать все, то есть о тех, кто находится рядом с тобой и так далее. Во-вторых, то есть у нас появилось множество приложений, которые я уже потом вот забыла включить в презентацию, которые касаются непосредственно войны. То есть у нас есть теперь приложение «Тревога», да, которое сообщает нам о том, что происходит, собственно говоря, в разных регионах Украины. Если вы находитесь, у вас стоит геолокация в телефоне, то как только вы переезжаете, например, там, из Киевской области в Житомирскую, не дай бог там тревога, у вас сразу начинает кричать телефон. Но я, пожалуй, не буду показывать, как оно звучит, да, но это прекрасный звук, мы все к нему привыкли. У нас есть другие приложения, которые касаются сообщение о том, что вы видите. То есть, если срабатывает тревога, и вы видите, что летит какой-то объект, у нас есть приложение, называется ЕППУ. Я даже сейчас его покажу. Вот так оно выглядит. То есть, при помощи этого приложения мы можем отметить, летит ли ракета, беспилотник, самолет, коптер, вертолет. Тут даже добавили сейчас линку НЛО, вот, взрыв и просто тестовая версия. То есть лично я пользовалась ею несколько раз, я отмечала ракеты, летящие прямо над головой, беспилотник, летящий прямо над головой. Вот, ну, у нас есть свои уже, как говорится, там термины для обозначения, что это такое. То есть мы используем не беспилотник, мы говорим там шахеды, мы говорим как там косилки, да, потому что звук их похож как раз, да, на соседа, который косит траву. Вот. И, собственно говоря, вот эта вся сфера, то есть у нас есть приложение для новой почты, у нас есть приложение для, ну, буквально всего, чего только может быть. И вот как раз это создает те возможности для работы и для тестирования этих всех программ, да, то есть плюс вот это EPAM, да, как раз компания. Я сама общалась вот с теми, кто там работает. У них абсолютно лояльное отношение, как раз вот там мы не видим этих вот гендерных каких-то дискриминаций на уровне зарплаты, потому что большинство как раз женщин чувствуют себя комфортно, защищенно и нормально. У них нет такого, то есть если ты работаешь, ты получаешь зарплату гораздо выше всех мужчин вместе взятых, если ты хорошо делаешь свою работу. И как раз возможности вот тестировать все эти приложения там очень много. Уровень зарплат там всегда выше, нежели у гуманитариев. Поэтому, если бы вот это все не происходило, я думаю, что еще через пару лет у нас как раз была бы еще, может быть, лучшая ситуация. Вместе с тем она стимулирует появление новых предложений, которые стимулируют, опять-таки, развитие IT. Надеюсь. Марія Михайловна, кажіть, можливо, вже є? Боїтесь?
Ну, давайте тогда уже на русском я спрошу. Если вот все это, if it is all generalized, summed up in all these apps in smartphone, what about ethics and safety of personal data? It's people are transparent, and are transparent for all public services, are transparent not only for public services, but also for corporations, and how to protect ourselves in such.
In a world of big data, we cannot save our information, our interests, because you know, if you find in your phone some project, maybe it's about wine or some tours in Ukraine or abroad, 5 minutes and you can see advertising in Facebook about this. It's, скажем так, это очень сложный вопрос. Но я считаю, что в цифровом мире, вот современном, ну невозможно уже как бы вот хранить свои данные, потому что мне кажется, что они уже давным-давно где-то все учтены. И действительно, что бы мы ни делали, оно все равно так или иначе будет учитываться. Но это уже та реальность, в которой мы живем. Я не против жить в реальности, в которой цифровые технологии знают обо мне все. Я против других реальностей, в которой меня пытаются просто стереть, как нолик где-нибудь там в системном коде. Скажем так.
I have a question.
That in Russian, in English.
Так, чтобы дошло, лучше по-русски.
Хорошо. Во-первых, спасибо большое за презентацию, это было очень интересно, и учитывая, что мы все так или иначе стремимся к дигитализации социальности, то, конечно, пример Украины сейчас и как работают ваши приложения, это прекрасный пример того, как можно дифференцировать социальную среду и создать действительно эффективные инструменты, которые помогают людям собираться и взаимодействовать, и влиять на процессы без физического присутствия, учитывая, что мы имеем уже определение чрезвычайной ситуации, в том числе данное Агамбином, и Агамбин, естественно, понимает его в негативном ключе, как усиление контроля и давления над обществом. С помощью цифровых технологий мы можем понимать чрезвычайное положение как нечто не противоположное, но, во всяком случае, дать ему другие определения. И у меня нет вопроса, у меня просто комментарий по этому поводу, потому что у меня есть опыт сравнения с Китаем, где тоже в период пандемии были введены различного рода приложения для учета состояния здоровья, для контроля за перемещением, для того, чтобы, естественно, это все создавалось под эгидой защиты населения от распространения пандемии, но в том числе, учитывая специфику китайской политики, мы можем понимать, что это как раз-таки был тот пример, когда усиление контроля и в том числе принудительной изоляции людей работали на руку государству, и в том числе это было использовано в политических целях. Поэтому, конечно, подобные примеры, они дифференцируют наше понимание, и в том числе понимание того, каким образом мы можем действовать в условиях чрезвычайного положения, каким образом мы можем по-другому понимать эти инструменты. Спасибо большое, это было очень интересно.
Я просто вот дам комментарий небольшой. У нас тоже вот были, да, такие во время коронавируса, да, что вы должны, там, если вы приехали из-за границы, у вас обнаружили там на границе вот корону, вы не должны выходить из дома в течение там 2 недель. Да, простят меня мои коллеги, но украинцы всегда были очень такой смешливой нацией, поэтому, так как у нас не особенно учитывается количество номеров, то человек может спокойно положить смартфон дома, показывать, что он находится там, взять другой телефон и бродить по улицам. Это говорит, конечно, что мы были достаточно безответственны в некоторых вопросах. Ну, к слову сказать, то есть у нас достаточно высокий уровень был вакцинирования населения, который, ну, я не могу сказать, что он осуществлялся принудительно, но просто все, кто хотели выехать, они, скорее всего, вакцинировались. Те, кто работают на социальных работах, это преподаватели, это работники банков, работники там детских садиков и так далее, они все вакцинировались. Да, но как бы то они такими, в общем-то, и остались. Как бы тотального такого контроля, чтобы кто-то за тобой бегал и говорил, ты там не долечился, ну, как бы нет, не было. То есть здесь уровень действительно вот этого тоталитарного слежения, он различный. Вот. И как мы сейчас, да, нет, просто мы вот, если можно сказать, поняли, что действительно насколько упростилась система, она стимулировалась еще и во время действительно короны, когда нельзя было приходить там в кабинеты, когда не хотели, чтобы люди собирались больше там двоих-троих, когда хотели, чтобы все документация вот, да, она поступала максимально быстро, вот именно тогда это все и формировалось. И возникали у нас буквально каждые, там, не знаю, пару месяцев происходит обновление идеи и добавляется что-то новое. Вплоть до того, что все голосовали, какую марку следующую будем печатать, с псом-патроном или же российский корабль «Иди». Угу. Да, голосование по поводу 8 марта, то есть будем отмечать или не будем отмечать, в каком формате, если оно остается. То есть голосование, собственно, о всем. Понятное дело, что не каждый человек, не каждый украинец является таким активным пользователем смартфонов. То есть есть, понятное дело, там, скажем, дети, у которых смартфоны у всех есть, но они не, як то кажуть, не относятся к этим всем возможностям, им просто неинтересно. Ну и есть как бы население, да, более такое традиционно настроено, они просто не будут этим заниматься. Да? Но вот как раз социально активная молодая среда, они в это задействованы, они стараются менять, тут даже проводились исследования, что многие украинцы, выехав из Украины, понятное дело, вынужденно, они продолжали активно влиять на изменение улиц, площадей и так далее. И тут как раз уже был этический аспект, а правомерно ли, то есть считаться гражданином Украины, находясь не там. Действительно, такие дискуссии были, потому что оно во многом, я бы даже сказала, что где-то раскололо общество. Потому что, вот если уж говорить даже о психологических моментах, одна коллега из Одессы уехала в Германию. Она, обучаясь в немецком вузе, решила как раз исследовать вопрос, насколько и дифференцировалось вот отношение к украинцам, то есть как оно есть самих украинцев к украинцам, насколько оно изменилось представителей других стран на протяжении вот этого времени. Ну, как бы там много моментов, которые, ну, к сожалению, не слишком приятные. Ну, не буду забирать время.
Как раз есть вопрос не про защиту персональных данных, а как раз вопрос доступа, потому что мне кажется, что большая этическая проблема в данном случае, потому что я согласна, что в Украине все работает в этом отношении прекрасно, но у меня такой вопрос, если действительно, то есть это социально-экономический барьер и барьер географический. Я имею в виду, там, например, если у тебя не проведен широкополосный интернет, если у тебя нет денег на персональный хорошо работающий смартфон, то получается ты как будто бы оказываешься ущемлен в доступе и в количестве прав, и мне кажется, что в этом какая-то проблема, и как вы видите, можно ее решать, чтобы люди имели одинаковый доступ.
Спасибо. Ну вот у нас есть еще особенность такая, что DI у нас как бы две. У нас есть портал DI, который работает с компьютера. Он немножечко, скажем, может в чем-то проще, в чем-то сложнее, но как бы я думаю, что все равно у людей в какой-то мере доступ вот в интернет есть, да, то есть если это не персональный телефон, то есть если ты живешь, например, в небольшом там ПГТ, тебе, понятное дело, не нужно расписание, ну, каких-то там транспортов, тебе не нужны вот эти билеты, да, потому что это совершенно другая культура, да, то есть благодаря, опять-таки, войне количество мест, которые снабжены старлинками, стало в разы больше. Вот это действительно парадоксальная ситуация, и поэтому проблем с покрытием вот, интернетом практически нет. Мы ощущали проблему с тем, когда действительно были отключения света, да, связанные с тем, что бомбились, собственно говоря, электростанции, и потом разряжались просто батареи. Как показывала практика, в Киеве сеть была хуже, нежели за пределами Киева. То есть вот как раз в маленьких поселочках держались батареи лучше, оптоволоконные вот эти все сети, они работали лучше, нежели у жителей мегаполиса, у которых многоквартирные дома. Там интернет пропадал просто сразу, связь пропадала сразу, а там было не. Поэтому здесь вот, ну да, есть отдельные моменты, но, как показала практика, то есть даже вот с обучением в небольших школах, допустим, у нас в Киевской области есть школа, где 10 детей в 1 классе. Там даже нет потребности вводить какие-то ограничения, было даже при коронавирусе, по большому счету. В Киеве среднее количество учеников в одном классе 30-33. с учетом того, что кто-то выехал, кто-то переехал из других регионов, поэтому здесь все равно возможностей получается больше. Ну, как бы ребенку на самом деле, то есть что было сделано, например, даже для обучательного процесса, все, что сделали для всеукраинской школы онлайн, оно транслировалось по телевизору, а вот телевизор практически есть у всех, то есть возможности были рассчитаны разные. Для смартфона посмотреть на YouTube, там, вот через трансляцию, если в этом есть необходимость. Поэтому как бы учитывались разные возможности коммуницировать.
Спасибо большое. So, and our next speaker is YANA SANKO, and she will be presenting on the topic of just the right amount of caring, navigating contradictory demands of HR work in Belarusian IT. And personally for me, I think that it's really interesting because on the one hand, Yana has academic experience. She is now she is students on social anthropology master students at University of Lund, but at the other hand, she has a working experience in IT, initially in human resources, and Yana is also co-founder of the UX Connection Designer community in Belarus, and I think that it's really interesting to compare their academic background and practical background, as well as usually unfortunately, we have this gap between academic research on the one hand and practical issues on the other hand. So, and personally for me, it was very interesting to talk about the caring work, especially in human resource departments, as well as I think that we have the same dynamic like in Ukraine and Belarus, the amount of number of non-technical staff, women employees in IT sector and personally in human resources. So, Yana, we are very welcome.
Thank you, Antonina, and thank you all for having me here. And I'll just start a timer to make sure that I'm wise with the time. And then also, as everyone else, I need help with slides. It seems easier when you sit in the audience, but then you come here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as Antonina mentioned, this talk will be based partially on my personal experience. I'm currently a master student in Lund. Before that, I have more than 10 years of experience working in IT, and about 6 of them are actually in HR. So like I know something about HR in Belarus in IT, at least before 2020. And so for those of you who might not be aware, IT industry in Belarus before 2020 was quite lucrative both for employees and for employers. So employers were leveraging the low taxes and tax haven from the Belarusian state, which allowed them to have a very high profit working with customers from Western countries. And then for employees as well, it was also a very good place to be in the sense that it was a very high pay comparing to average salary in the country. I think it is somewhat similar in Ukraine, although I know there are differences. But basically, it was a comfortable spot to be. But now we have a different situation. We have a third year of an ongoing crisis, and this crisis started with 2020 with rigged elections and political repressions and imprisonment and many people fleeing the country. But it continued after sanctions were imposed, when the full-scale invasion of Ukraine also added to the list of sanctions, and companies started closing down in Belarus, because basically working with companies from Belarus became toxic for clients from Western countries. And so the situation in IT industry started changing rather rapidly, and it became much more precarious, I would say, although still like many of the people working in the industry are in relatively good condition, I would say. So HR, to understand what I'm talking about, HR is an important concept for our kind of reality, and it's ironic that initially Nicholas Rose is talking about a spread of psychological expertise, which led to birth of personnel, which is kind of like became an HR later. But today personnel he's talking about is seen as a separate function and often seen as a like necessary bureaucratic evil, which is relying on partially on kind of like demands from the government. You have to conduct business, and then also on this old perspective paradigm of Taylorism, which is like not a cool thing in IT for sure. And then more on important concept, like thought leaders for HR in global companies having offices in Eastern European countries are, for example, Dave Ulrich or George Bersin. Dave Ulrich is actually human resources workers into something more cool and maybe more powerful within the organization, and it is a very controversial topic which deserves like separate study. We will not dive into it today. Just also to mention that another trend that is influencing how this profession is understood in Belarusian IT is this caring HR trend, which is happening globally, but also has particular kind of configuration, I would say, in Belarus. So HR, it was said that it's actually not very cool to call people resources. So maybe we should start renaming our title. Maybe we should be people managers or happiness specialists or employee experience specialists. And it's like not only about the naming is just a symbol of it, but it's a whole paradigm how like people management should be done. And then speaking about Belarusian context in particular, it is a very female profession. You saw the charts. I'm very lucky to do my speech right now because you saw the numbers, how women are represented in IT, and also how many of the women are working in HR actually in IT. But those are some of the names that are associated with this profession. So first of all, girls with the balloons is kind of like emic term. HRs are using it themselves to say we are not girls with the balloons. And I believe the term actually came from like association with some, I don't know, someone hanging balloons, like decorating the office to make it like more fun, but somehow it really stuck, and for more than 10 years actually it's used to describe HR people. And then there is this obnoxious kind of name Hrushi, which is wordplay with HR, which is used online to refer to them, and it's a very like disrespectful way to point out their usefulness. And then also this mom's notion of their kind of caring aspect of their profession, that they are mom you. And always there is some degree of discrimination based on the age, looks, and lifestyle choices. So for example, like I personally witnessed situations when managers, male managers, would be talking about hiring a new HR person and saying something like, well, first of all, it should be a nice looking girl. And so like, you know, yeah, so older people, and I mean older means older than 30. So like, not that much older, but like older people are also not always welcome in that role, although there are exceptions. And background in psychology is really appreciated, so to the degree that sometimes people were asking me, do you have it? And I was saying no, I'm an anthropologist, and they like, can you do that job? It's like, it's a requirement. So it is very serious. So what I'm talking about here today is based on 22 interviews done in 2021, and I was interested in particular how this kind of notion of HR work changed in relation to crisis, but also as I have my own experience and I have my own biases, I do not pretend that it's like objective study. It's a very critical study actually, because I think there is something problematic about this role and how it works in IT companies. And but to kind of to be more able to analyze the material, I implemented some temporal distance between collecting the data and actually like revisiting it and seeing what it tells me, because at first my reading of it was, I think, more romanticized in a way, but I think seeing as the crisis is unraveling, I also was becoming more and more critical of what I actually have gathered there. And then also, speaking of the media, I was looking into DevBuy, which is a major IT media in Belarus, and maybe not even on the Belarus right now. And also there is a known Ukrainian resource called, can we use obscene words here? Obscene words like, yeah, no? Okay, so if you're interested, I will tell you in the break, so just to be sure we do not spoil the recording or anything. Anyhow, I was focusing on particular types of HR, which are like working with people and whose primary objective is employee retention and satisfaction. There are many more roles which are not focused on that, and so it would be applicable for everyone. However, there are many people like that working in IT industry in Belarus, and so I think that's why it's interesting. Theoretically, it started with actually Graeber's idea of bullshit jobs. And Graeber calls HR is an like ultimate bullshit job. So basically pointless job that could be removed. And that was like what started my inquiry, but later it became obvious that it's not the right angle, I would say, to it. So I was more engaging with the idea of emotional labor and deep versus surface acting, and also with some works about, well, political implications of what HR management generally is, because it is happening inside the companies. It is hidden by NDAs and different kind of like, walls. So it's very far from public access, but it has some real political implications, I believe. And yeah, I will probably skip the rest to save us some time. So, I have a lot of slides. Yes, so like I will ration it. So yeah, two main kind of ideas I'm working with here is, first of all, emotional labor and then intimate labor. And the important difference here is that basically HR, as I see, do both, but there is difference in the sense that emotional labor describes how you as a worker relate to the work you do, while intimate labor doesn't touch that area, but instead it relies on trust, and also caring or doing emotional labor is focused also like on what are you doing to the person, while intimacy can actually be hurtful. Intimacy can actually be about learning something about a person and using it to, for example, company advantage. And so I think that's an important difference here. So what good HR means? On one hand, it means caring about people, being like helpful, friendly, empathetic, like flexible, conflict avoidant, but also able to resolve conflicts, all those like great things. But also at the same time, it means being business oriented and focused on using the relationships you have with the employees to advance company interests. So there is already a contradiction there, and most of my interlocutors felt this contradiction very well. In most of job descriptions you would read, and also in most of kind of like discussions you would hear inside the corporate environment, it is said that HR is intermediary between company and employees, and this idea of neutrality or impartiality is very important here, because like it's the source of their kind of ability to do their job. So some examples, some quotes from the study. For example, this person here says like, I am responsible for everything that happens to people in the company, including physical state, emotional state, moral state, health, and stuff like that. So she is basically responsible for knowing that about people and either trying to help on the positive note or trying to use it in people management. And so, we can see here directly that like she says, I'm responsible for how people feel. It is a huge responsibility to think about it. Then another quote is, it is related to the stress in 2020 when employees became very agitated. And so here person says that like she had to spot how that someone is anxious during the team meetings and then pursue him individually to see either she can help them or maybe she can kind of calm them down. But also noticeable, she uses this Russian word kupировать, like provide relief for the symptoms that couldn't be fully treated, because like what happened to us in 2020 is not something you could really cure, but you still care for person in some way. And then also about impartiality, another quote is just like, I think it's very kind of like speaks for itself. So basically here the person says that like this neutrality, this impartiality is the basis of your status within the organization. You cannot afford being too close to the like senior leadership or too close to employees or too close to like line managers. You need to balance all the time between all three. And all three should consider you like their, I don't know, trusted advisor. It's a word from job descriptions again, but you cannot be seen too close to any of them. And it's a very challenging spot to be in. And then there is paradox maybe, but maybe not, that another quote from the interviews again, the call HR, we have a person crying. So like we have a special person in our company who is responsible for dealing with someone having emotions, right? And the continuation of that quote was actually that like HR came, it was again 2020, so a lot of things to cry about. So HR came and they cried together. That's all they could do actually. But this crying together, is it part of the job officially? No. And many kind of, especially considering that those are global companies that have headquarters somewhere outside of Eastern Europe, and they have a somewhat different view of the profession. So they would say that actually it could be unprofessional, or at least like not very good handling of the situation. So some kinds of this work are really kind of like not approved. They are called in those derogatory terms like cry pillow, wipe their noses. But can people really refuse doing this work? Not really, in my opinion. So first of all, again, another quote from the interview, this person says that like, I was thinking about that like when they share, like call me in the evening and talk to me about their divorce for 3 hours, or when they share the screenshot of their chat with the girlfriend, is it because I'm a woman? Like, is it because they can do that to the female colleague? And her answer is yes, because if I was a male HR, it would be different. And in fact, I interviewed a couple of male HRs and it is different. Like, they also sometimes use those dad metaphors, but it's different. We know what caring dad is, like from other feminist research. So they kind of like, they know this work is desirable to be engaged in it sometimes, but still often they feel they cannot not engage in it. First of all, because their job descriptions are very vague, and they are told that like gaining employee trust, understanding people, knowing their issues, knowing their problems, caring is kind of an essence of the job. And so they need to do this interpretation work all the time. Is it caring or not? Is it kind of like, is it helping or not? And it's very exhausting activity on itself. And also, refusal to provide such care could be seen as unsafe, and for a reason, because, for example, one of my interlocutors, she shared that, like, ideally, in ideal world, as for the most of IT in Belarus till 2020, retention, staff retention was the key metrics. It means like everything you do is around like retaining employees, because if they leave, you lose money. And that was a metric like relatively easy to work with. But so it's not very easy to measure the work of HRs. And actually, sometimes it wasn't that easy even before. So what some of their supervisors do, they go to people, to like regular employees, and ask, is she helpful? Is she helping? Is she caring? And based on what they say, like, they make a judgment whether it's good HR or not. What it means is that if you come to me with your divorce story and I tell you, you know what, maybe you should go to therapist. During this appraisal, you will be told, like, you will tell that, like, yeah, no, she's not very helpful. And so it would potentially influence your career. So there is this kind of like power dynamics, which is more, I'd say, more complex than it is in, for example, some other Western countries. And also, pragmatically, employee trust is a resource for career advancement. Based on how well you know what happens to people, management judges how useful you are. And so you need to know the information that someone is like in a bad state or thinking about quitting and stuff like that, to use it and leverage it to, like, for your own advancement. So like no one is ideal here, I would say. But what is noticeable is that as soon as HRs gain higher status within the organization, as soon as they can afford to not engage in such work, they often choose to withdraw those boundaries and actually say people, you know what, you should see a therapist. So like, it is a matter of power. They cannot afford it, therefore they engage in it. And yeah, so basically it is a very challenge. I would argue that HR in Belarusian IT company is a very challenging spot to be initially, because you are dealing with aggression. I leave out some quotes, but like you're dealing with a lot of like negativity from people, and especially like in those anonymous online media, which again, I'm not sure if I can say the word out loud, but like it publishes very obscene accounts, and they mention HRs by names, and it's very kind of, it's close to, it is bullying actually, like it's straightforward bullying. Then also you see being called useless all the time, because even people who thank you directly, as my interlocutor shared, people thank you directly for being helpful in some situation, but then you see on LinkedIn, for example, they comment someone posts discussing how useless HRs are. And so you see that like what they say to your face and what they say behind your back is very different. You constantly need to provide evidence that your work has any value in general, but any attempts to delineate the scope of that work in a more kind of like clear terms usually fails. You usually cannot do that, because it's actually to the company's advantage to have it in like those fluffy terms of care. And also a lot of discursive work done to construct this work as a form of art, something that cannot be measured in principle, because it's like, it's about communication, it's about getting people feeling and stuff like that. Yeah, and so basically it is not a very nice place to be. And then also there is this employee branding perspective, which is HR's identity often entrapped, I would say, into the notion of employee brand. They represent the company, they need to convince people that the company is good. And so if company is not good, that means they also are not very good. And so this leads to some different kind of strategies of dealing with that, but one of them actually is sometimes transforming messages that go from like corporate entity, from like top management, for example, and translating them into different terms to make them kind of more acceptable for employees. And in this sense, it involves deep acting in Hochschild's terms, because they kind of need to believe that company is good to explain it or to convince anyone else. And yeah, to the question, like, what does it do? What's the harm, except the harm to particular females working in this profession and it's leaving for some other job eventually? Well, first of all, it is important to understand that configuration of labor relations in IT market, in IT labor market in Belarus before 2020, it was like all based on this employee branding perspective. No one or very few people would go resolve anything like legally in courts, for example, because it didn't make sense. What made sense is that we are like all caring about each other and we have this like family-like atmosphere, but if we don't, you will have reputational loss and it will be bad for the company because it's really hard to hire good employees in this market. So like this perspective prevailed, and it means that like the idea of going to court was completely foreign to anyone. And it's not like HRs are to blame here, they're just a part of this mechanism, but I think the work they done is actually was leveraged by the company to advance their interest in this way. And what it means it means that when the crisis hit, the position of employees, all employees, including HRs themselves, became more precarious when it actually had to be. And including HRs, they find themselves in a very kind of interesting position where, like, from this, the person saying, like, I'm this kind of person, I like to help people, I like to care about them. We go to this, and this is like key IT media dev buy in Belarus. I think everyone here understands Russian, right? Like, so basically they say this thing like, it's not the time for the girls with the balloons anymore. And then they follow that, well, optimistically speaking, which is the interpretation, HR departments might have even more work because, like, firing and downsizing requires a lot of efforts on HR side. But imagine the person who was selected based on the ability to empathize and provide care and emotional labor, who now forced to do completely different type of labor, which is kind of like to tell people that you're fired. Here's your severance, best case. It is like very different kind of work they would find themselves in. And yeah, and so what I find resonating here is the Hatzidakis and Littler perspective. They talk about care washing in corporate COVID-related practices, and they say that it is not just a short-term kind of like attempt to get reputational gain, but it's more like a strategy of helping businesses to make their ways into the parts of the societies that that didn't belong to them initially. What it means is that, like, and it is especially dangerous in an authoritarian context, because in Western world you still have some kind of other institutions, however, failing to approach to. But in Belarus, if you're fired in like not very legal way, that's it. There is no one else you go to approach to, like there are no system to rely on. And unfortunately, I think the emotional labor and care provided by HR organizations was part of this process. It's like, again, not for them to blame, but like it was part of it. That's it.
Thank you Thank you so much for a brilliant presentation. And yeah, I also all the time think about this double position of HR. On the one hand, usually it's she, because in Belarus it's 95% of women in through the in IT companies. And on the one hand, it was one of the most precarious job. That involves a lot of emotional exploitation work, but on the other hand, in a structural way, not in a personal, like a structure, they produce all these discrimination practices inside the company, and not produce, but somehow to maintain it. Yeah. And why, how do you think, why, according to the second part of this situation, why is it happened? Why they continue to produce this discrimination, so participate in this discrimination practice, to be one of the most discriminated group in the company?
Well, it is a big question. I think there is more than one answer to it, because, well, I can, for example, speak from my own experience. I was working in this job. I was very happy to leave it. I was very happy to be in IT in non-HR job. It felt like paradise, like, because like the treatment is very different and you feel it immediately. So but I think it is not the same for everyone. And I think a lot of work done in general for people, first of all, not to see that you are the most vulnerable group. So it's like probably a subject of another study, but like a lot of work done internally by the top management, by like higher HR staff, to make you feel like those are temporary struggles, but generally you're fighting a good fight. Including like gender diversity, for example, because there are some initiatives and sometimes you have a feeling that like, yeah, you are advancing female interests, you are doing something useful. I even had this idea myself when I was like more young and more naive. But yeah, so basically there are different mechanisms, but unfortunately, in many cases, there are also some very pragmatic stories where people understand what they engage into, but they kind of find their spot. They think they manage it okay, and that's okay with them. They see the discrimination, they see the structural kind of unfairness, but that's how it is. So like there are many different stories. I don't think I prepared today to kind of like to sum them up, but it's definitely something that fascinates me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing this position, insider, outsider, at the same time through the human resources sphere. And maybe someone else.
One of your slides was devoted to have dealing with certain, not having dealing with certain group, not to be close for management or employees or anyone else. What's the criteria of you not closer to someone group? How you can orientate?
That's the point. There are no criteria. So you're navigating, like you have free audiences in any room, like I mean abstract room, not real room, sometimes real room. You have top management, you have line management, which is a little bit different, and then you have regular employees. And they all have some idea of how you should be a good HR to them. And you need to, but it's not told explicitly, never. And it's like, yes, you need to be caring, but not too caring. You need to be business oriented, but not show it too much. So basically, there is no clear way how you can navigate it ideally. That's the
only
whole
inside.
Point. Only the feeling. But what does it mean? The feeling. It means that actually people who have the power to decide, they tell you whether you missed it or not. It means like you make a move, and one of those three actors tell you, yeah, it wasn't not what we meant. Yeah, a little bit to the left, you know.
Thank you so much. Do you have any other question? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, something goes wrong with. Online participants. So I would like to introduce our next speaker, VIKTORYIA SLIAPTSOVA. She will participants online who will be presenting on topic of foreign professionals in China, elite media, local marriages and career building, inequality. And VIKTORYIA research focus on increasing tenure of international marriages in China. And probably I think it's a really interesting topic, and somehow, not directly, but somehow to continue the idea of emotional job. And VIKTORYIA, we are glad to see you. Do you hear us well?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, everything is perfect. Yeah, you can share the screen if you want.
Okay, yes, I will try to share my screen now.
Just 1 second.
Okay, can you see it? Can you see it?
Whiteboard.
Okay, a whiteboard. So no, you cannot see my screen. Okay,
I'll see.
I will try. Okay, what about now?
Oh, yes, yes, everything is perfect.
Okay, great. Yeah, so hello everyone. Yeah, thank you for having me. You know, I'm very happy to attend this conference. And before I start my presentation, I will introduce myself, just few words, and then I will demonstrate you a video that will help us to understand, marriage-related processes and phenomena in contemporary China. So. Yeah, my name is Viktoria SLIAPTSOVA, and last 10 years I have been working and living in China in Beijing as an editor and TV host and reporter for elite Chinese media. What I mean when I'm saying elite Chinese media is basically government propaganda Chinese media. All media in China are government and related to propaganda. So that's how I introduced myself. But if, for example, we're talking now with my Chinese colleagues in China, they would just tell you, VIKTORYIA, she Shen Yu. So what means, VIKTORYIA, like Victoria, VIKTORYIA, my Chinese name, she's single, or Shen Yu. It's how they call a woman that didn't get married till 30 or till 27 years old. So this kind of women have a high risk to be stigmatized, like, and calling Shen Yu. So now I will show you the video. Give me. So I'm sorry that maybe it's not so fast, but I will try. So this is social advertising, social video created by Japanese brand 7 years ago, but it's still relevant to current marriage-related situation in China. And it will explain you this Shen Yu concept and many other, cultural concepts that I will share. I will tell you about. Okay.
Do you hear us? I have a problem with internet connection. Victoria?
Okay, so you don't, so yeah.
Now everything is perfect.
So you can see my video now? I'm sorry, because I was showing.
No, we don't, we cannot see.
You cannot see now a video?
Only your slides. Probably,
only my slides.
Maybe you choose streaming only this presentation, but not the whole.
Maybe not the whole screen. Okay. Can we just?
We have time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, your technical experts now can show this video from YouTube because you have a link. Because or what I need to do, because I'm not really woman in tech. So how can I? Okay, new share. So okay, maybe here. Now can you see?
We see it.
Okay, and now I will try to play it. If there is no sound, please let me know. But I hope it's fine now. Okay, okay, good.
不是小孩子了，
把自己嫁出去，
你一天不结婚，父亲就不死。
不要任性，
可怜天下父母心啊，
挑来挑去的，
哪个不合适？
多个女人就应该结婚。
说你现在已经是剩女了。
剩女这个词给人的感觉就是剩下来的女人，给我的感觉就是说，其实 好像25岁以后还不结婚就是剩女了。
可能会被别人说，或者被家人催，或者有些社会的压力吧。所以过年回家是压力最大的，因为全部人都会在问你，
你都多大了，还没结婚呢？
你年龄也不小啦。
他们就可能觉得，就是在中国这个社会，就是一定要结婚，那才是一个完整的女人。
你还在城外的感觉。
以前拉的对象，那就
OK，
场的相亲角，然后可能都是父母，然后拿了一个女儿或者儿子的介绍，然后放在那边。
收入啊，工作是什么样子的？有没有房子？有没有车子？
挂个招商启事给卖出去是那种。中华儿女嘛，就是孝为当先，因为他反正就不结婚肯定是就是不孝的一种。
以前我总认为我的女儿肯定性格好嘛，人也不是长得太漂亮，一般嘛，所以到现在还是生下来了。
渴望真爱，对我还是很渴望爱情的。
赶快把它解决好了算了，也不要太残忍了，对吗？
也许想要放弃找个自己喜欢的、适合的也挺好。
你说要真正找不着，也是我们老两口一个心病。
可能这方面我比较自私，我想跟他说对不起。
然后我希望我这样的一个状态非常能够得到父母的认可。
我就算一个人，就是幸福、快乐、自信的，然后好好过。
后来想开了，就是我说剩女，那我工作强了，现在有女强人嘛，这么一说的话，
直到等到那个对的人，妈妈永远支持你。
对于自己生活这件事，我是很开心的，然后很自由，我也享受一个人的状态。
我女儿很美，剩女很光荣啊。
独立人也应该活得很精彩的，这就是我想。
他如果觉得单身的也蛮好，我们还是会尊重他的。
是优秀的女孩啊，剩男要努力呀。
自信，独立，热爱生活，不错的一位女性。
Okay, so I'll come back to my
Hey everybody.
Presentation. Okay. So is it obvious my presentation now? Okay.
No.
No. Okay.
Could you try once again to share the screen?
Yes, I will try. Give me 1 minute. I'm sorry that, something wrong here.
No.
Share the screen. But get it. I'm sorry. It's like very.
Yeah, everything is perfect. Yeah.
Great. I'm sorry for this, inconvenience, but because of Chinese subtitle, I wasn't able to download it to my presentation. Okay. So Yeah, Shinyu, Shinyu. So why I'm started with this, concept? That's because, after 10 years, like during these 10 years of working for Chinese media as a professional expert, I have realized basically that all the same labels and stereotypical assessments, right, I applied to female foreign professionals as well, and the same like male foreign professionals. So, to understand how to deal with this inequality and how to develop your career in China, if you really came to China and you aim to develop your career in media. So, very important to understand these cultural patterns and this aspect of habitus, which we call like emotional culture. So, can you? Oh, no. In spite of, despite of the fact that norms of Confucianism and family pressure are still very strong in Chinese society. So in my experience, both single Chinese employees of Chinese media and the foreign colleagues, in some point, to think about changing this status, even, in the sake to your career, because some of my colleagues, like foreign and especially Chinese ones, they have realized that if they will not deal with this problem, because for Chinese society it's really a problem, because it's against ancient customs, against norm. So you will not get any success in your career. So, but new generation of young professionals and career-oriented female and male experts, they try, they try different ways to deal with this situation, but they need to deal with the situation somehow, because basically the key concept of Chinese culture is saving face concept, because if you are not get married, if you are not successful in your marriage, you are kind of surplus woman, and you are not only you are losing your face, all your family losing your face. So and as we saw in this video, parents really put a lot of pressure on female, and also for male, not only for daughters, for son as well. So for male, for men, there are other problems, that if they're not comply with high financial standards accepted by Chinese society, if they don't have a flat, if they don't have a car and some amount of money on the bill, they will never get married Chinese women, because Chinese women are they can choose, and because the quantity of women here are very high, and so to deal with these marriage related problems, if like you are about 30 and you're still not married, Chinese parents, try to attend matchmaking corners. So in the park, basically, you can see the pictures. So they bring the pictures of the daughters when they can describe, the profession, how many flats or cars they have. So you saw it in the video. And there are also other ways to deal with this, like, they call it like flash marriages. So sometimes people can just get married, if they, they don't know each other. They just met each other 3 weeks ago, and they're ready to get married, just, to deal with single problem situations. So, and basically one of the ways to solve the problem, how they call it, there is even a special Chinese expression related to this single status. It's to get married with a foreigner. because for Chinese men, it's a way to avoid this financial pressure, because foreign fiancé will not ask about 2 flats, 3 cars, and all other, wealth-related things. And for Chinese women, it's also, the way even to find the real life. They're really always saying in this kind of related research to the single women. So all of them saying about finding the real life, the real love. So basically why me decided, to do this research. So I just started this research 1 month ago. Because for me, I was also asked, many times during this years in China. So Victoria, why you are not get married? Let's introduce you to our Chinese colleagues from English channel. Let's introduce you with this other man. So I also felt some kind of, let's say, pressure, and at some point I have realized that some projects or job opportunity that I expected, they were given to my, not single married, especially Chinese married colleagues. And I will explain you now why. So this is basically, you just saw my, the main research questions. And I have really my hypothesis about this. So, because, basically I was, like anthropologist in the field all these years, and I, used not only, I conducted not only interviews, but also I used like the method of observation and analysis. And what I really investigated that, the chances to be promoted, much higher if you are married Chinese national. So among my all my research aims, so this is 3 of them. Now I want to share with you what I figured out about the second one. So I was trying to find the main reasons for the local career building inequality, and this is about the methods I told you. So I already, last month, I conducted like 4 interviews. And, in July, I planned 3 other interviews. So in January, it will be 10 interviews. But for now, I can share with you some conclusions. So basically, why Chinese elite media bosses not really thrilled with the single status of foreign employees. First of all, as I said before, so they transfer all the same norms about marriage in China to foreigners. So, for example, if you are single, they kind of, there is something wrong with the single woman. So why she's like so obsessed with her career? She should focus on her marriage, because it's like the main female role, the male role of her life. Or what about this guy? Why he is single? So maybe he just doesn't have a lot of money to marry, or maybe he's just not really careless. So, and the second reason, Chinese management really perceive single workers like unreliable. And, many times, in personal conversation, they really highlighted that, you're too focused on self, you're too focused on a we concept, not like me concept, not like we concept, because, the Chinese is very collective culture. And, like even, during all the meetings, they say we. So you are not by yourself. You're always a part of your family. So if you have Chinese spouse, you're a part of Chinese family, and this family, a great part of, the whole Chinese society. So all of them, it's a big family, and to be accepted in this society, you really need to demonstrate that you're not so selfish. So you are ready to say we, not like me. So, and the third point, so basically, Chinese management really not really trust to single foreigners. That's because they are not able to apply the same, pressure tools on single workers. So what I mean when I say pressure tools, I will give you the example. For example, during the draconian COVID restrictions that we experienced here last 3 years, so you know that they were horrible lockdowns. So all of us were asked to share details with where you live, with whom you live, and not just in information, or I live with my boyfriend, for example. They really insist that you need to share passport number of your boyfriend, his job, all, personal information. And when, of course, most of the single, not married Chinese national expats, they refuse to share because it's kind of personal information, how it's related to our contract. They were really, so it's kind of, it's not the right behavior, and it's not behavior that can help you to be promoted in your job. So because, you need to be transparent. If you are part of Chinese family, if you have Chinese spouse, so then it's everything, transparent. Where you live, with whom you live, and basically you're more obeyed. So Chinese, foreign spouses of Chinese national, so they of course behave according to local norms. So they will not argue, because they plan to live here many years, and they already accepted these norms from the family, from the Chinese family. So basically, so single foreign expats not so integrated in Chinese society, and they're exporting to, patterns of business communication adopted from their country. So it's also not really convenient for Chinese management. So basically, let's now I will share other conclusions related to foreign spouses married to Chinese. So first of all, they have better understanding of cultural norms, of course, because because they were already accepted by the family, and Chinese spouse, can share with them, all, how you need to behave in the workplace to be accepted and to, get what you want. So, and of course, in that case, because of the right patterns of professional behavior, they are more trusted. So Chinese management really have a high level of trust to them. Because basically, if you once were accepted by Chinese family, it means that, they already checked you. If, Chinese father or Chinese mother, if you became a part of the family, it means that, okay, we can deal with you. Probably we can trust you. So as a result, basically what I'm figuring out, now it is for interviews, but, all of these interviews really supported this hypothesis that foreign professionals married to Chinese nationals have more access to more projects and to business trip across China, and they also have the opportunity to publish the books and being interviewed by other Chinese media. Meanwhile, there are a number of pitfalls in this kind of opportunities. So a foreign specialist should be ready to become a mouthpiece of Chinese propaganda. So, and really promote adherence to the cause of the Communist Party of China. So it's really, if you will not do it, so you will not be promoted. So in the end, everything, everything come to this political point. So Also, foreign spouses will have to maintain the same level of discipline and transparency as Chinese staff that I already, told you about, gave you this example about, during lockdown, when they ask to share personal information passport of your partners. So, of course, the interest of the Chinese media corporation in such foreign opinion leaders is understandable. So in some point, I have been working here in two organizations. First 5 years, I was working as an editor and TV host for China Central Television, basically CGT and Russian TV channel. And then I switched to other digital media companies, and I work now for China.org. It's also government news portal. So in all these, two organizations, in some point, Chinese bosses try to propose this kind of, role, foreign opinion leader to foreign specialists. So at some point, you try to ask some articles to express your right political view. So, then doing this in very Chinese way, step by step, but you should be ready if you want really to increase your chances to be promoted. So yeah, it's all about your readiness and willingness or unwillingness to promote the right political views. And basically this what can help you or lower your chances of career development in China. So yeah, this is the main for now, this is the main conclusion that
sorry, I had interrupt you. We have several minutes.
So that I'm finished. I'm finished. So maybe you have some questions I would like to answer, because a lot of information and big experience during this last decade.
Thank you for the presentation, and we have several questions.
Hello, my name is Volga, and so I was much thankful for your presentation. That was interesting to know about Chinese experience, and so the problems with gender inequality, and especially with women's statues. And of course, so basically we all know that in highly patriarchal societies, this is a thing that obviously present. And I really liked this idea of capturing the marriage market, and filling it with other content, like there were those portraits of women placed, in this public space, and somehow redefined the idea of how it can work, so how women could be represented in public space. And I mean, this is a great instrument, of course, but I guess it's definitely not enough, because there are lots of more ways how people can oppose this idea of women to be independent, and have this opportunity to represent themselves in the way they want or they could. So just I have a very naive question to you. Do you see personally any other perspectives of how people can deal with this situation, or other instruments with which they can really interfere with this quite monolithic understanding of women's place? Thank you.
Volga, thank you so much for your interesting question. So I want to, really to explain more about this marriage market. So basically, this marriage market, they happening. So it's idea and it's initiative of Chinese parents, because Chinese parents so worried so much that their daughter are not married. So most of these Chinese, young professionals, because it's young professionals. So if you're 30 and you are not married, all these, women also feel like that they are young. So they really are, most of them, they even don't know about this. And in some points, they really find it very, humiliating. So, but they cannot say anything like with, like parents. So basically, it's a big problem of generation. That's how parents try to help them to deal with the problem. But, some of the women, like let's say most of the women, because in this area in Chinese government media and especially on TV, so many career-oriented women and my friends, like I have many, not married, single, the Chinese friends, and most of them, they found these marketplaces like this. It's horrible. So you asked me how I, what I can propose to deal with this situation. First of all, I'm 38. I'm not married. I divorced. And basically, I'm very happy with my life, and I really understand the concept of this single woman. I don't think that it's a problem, but according to Chinese society, it's like a problem. And most of the women, how they deal with this. So they just, find someone with they could marry, and basically they don't live with this person anymore because they can show the parent, okay, this is my husband, so they even can get a birth, and basically my boss on China Central Television, she came back to the office. I was like shocked after 4 days of giving birth because she just did it because of pressure of the parents. So it's a huge thing in China. So I don't have any proposal how to deal with the problem because I don't see this problem. So I just think single women just need to live the life, and I don't think that you need to be married, to to be accepted by society, but it is how it is in China. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much, Victoria, for joining us. And we still have the last panel for today, but probably the good idea to have 5-minute break. So, and we will return and we have the last 2 speakers.